We are another day closer to finding out what Jaden Akins and AJ Hoggard will end up doing after the NBA Combine list comes out without their names on it. Also, Big Ten future football schedules changing in the non-conference. Then I joined Zach Blackerby of Locked on Auburn to talk about, well, our old starting quarterback, their new starting quarterback. So yes, join that show. Let's go.
You are Locked on Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked on Spartans listeners, thank you so much for joining us here today at Locked on Spartans, your team in green and white, 5 days a week. Today's show, just a little bit of tidbits here in the first segment. Then we join Locked on Auburn. That's right, because, well, our quarterback went down there. They had a few questions to ask about us, and also the conversation was a little bit about our program as well. So that'll be segments 2 and 3, just for the heads up. Zach is one of the best, if not the best, Locked on host that we have around these parts. So an honor to join him. It was a good time, so hopefully you enjoy that chat as well. And before getting into the meat and potatoes of this first segment, gang, tomorrow's show, we've been teasing a player interview here throughout the week, and I didn't want to say the name until it happened, but yes, Payton Thorne will be joining us on tomorrow's show. We chatted earlier today, so that's going to be your weekend show. That's right, sophomore, maybe starting quarterback. Who's to say Payton Thorne, but really nice 12-ish minute conversation to look forward to tomorrow. So let's get into today's show, though. The NBA Combine list came out. About 70-ish names on this list. I believe it was 75, but really the number doesn't matter because the only thing that mattered is, well, was AJ Hoggard going to be on that list? Was Jaden Akins going to be on that list? Were either of those two Spartans going to be on the list invited to the week-long NBA Combine that will get them closer to realizing their NBA draft dreams? Then, well, you know the news by now. It's no. Neither of them did show up on that list, which to me, Akins was a little bit of a surprise getting left off the list, but after he was left off the NBA G League Combine list, you could kind of figure that, like, okay, neither will be on this list, and which is fine for them because, again, this whole draft process, ever since this rule change in 2016 where you can enter the draft, gather feedback, and then grow your game the following year, this is what this process was, an educational experience for them to find out what they needed to work on. They still got some pretty good feedback, I imagine, even without the Combine. But now let's talk what this means for Michigan State, all right? And more importantly, us fans, because we're a very nervous bunch. We want to know what's going to happen, what the important dates are. And, hey, Thursday at midnight, that is the deadline to enter the transfer portal. All right, from everything I've heard, it's expected that both these guys are to return, but it would also be pretty naive to just say, oh, it's a 0% chance, because of course programs have probably pecked their nose in there to see if they can get either of these guys away from Michigan State and into their own program, whether it be just smooth talking them, whether it be an NIL deal, but whatever it is, Thursday at midnight is the deadline. Now, we may or may not know when their names have actually entered the portal because, well, just like entering the NBA draft with AJ Hoggard doing it on Sunday and no one noticing until Tuesday, we could have the same effect there with the transfer portal. So we'll update it as soon as that, we know if or when they don't enter the transfer portal or whatever they decide to do. But it might be a little longer until they formally announce that they are returning to Michigan State. They have, I believe, until May 29th or May 30th. They have until the end of the month to pull their name out of the NBA draft formally. But, man, if they stayed in the NBA draft, even without a Combine invite, look, chase your dreams, everyone. Go crazy, but, like, that'd be some really bad advice from whoever they got that from. I'd be stunned if they just stayed in the NBA draft. So those are the 2 dates. On Thursday night for the transfer portal, and then all the way late May to pull their names out of the draft. Some MSU football recruiting tidbits. Xadavien Sims. That's right, one of the best defensive line recruits in the country, top 200 player in just about every media outlet that you look at. He is down to his top 5 and also set a decision date on May 20th. It is down between Oregon, Vanderbilt, TCU, his hometown state of Oklahoma, the Sooners, and then, well, hey, gang, you guessed it. It's Michigan State as that 5th team. So Michigan State definitely in the mix here, even though Brandon Jordan did leave. I mean, Xadavien still did visit in March, got to know Dyron Reynolds, the new defensive line coach around these parts. So there's not a lot of inkling as to where he's going to go. Right now, Rivals has one prediction in, amongst their reporters, and that is to Oklahoma. That was made at the beginning of May. 24/7 Sports has 4 crystal balls for Michigan State, but those were all made quite some time ago. So we're going to see here. We do know that the last place he did visit before announcing this commitment date and top 5 was Oregon. So they're going to be heavily in the mix as well. So yes, May 20th, circle the calendar and keep it tuned to a high school kid's decision of where he's going to be playing football. I would love if it was Michigan State. Yes, again, 4-star, top 200 defensive lineman. So keep your eye on him. And then one other recruiting tidbit as well, Nick Marsh. That's right. He was committed to this 2024 class for some time, but out of Detroit, 4-star kid, top 100 recruit. I think the world of this kid. He decommitted from Michigan State, but said that, well, MSU is still going to be on his list. And I was kind of like, that's what they all say. But it appears that could very well be the case here because he has set a decision date for early July. He also has set 4 official visits. It's Penn State, it's Auburn, it's Michigan State, and then also Kansas. Sure, why not? But Michigan State gets that last visit, all right? They get the June 23rd visit. That's the last school he will officially visit before making that decision. And the old adage in the world of recruiting is that, well, you want to either be that first visit, which will be Penn State, that will probably be Michigan State's top competitor, or you want to be that last visit. You either have the first word, set the bar very high for every other school after that, or have the closing thoughts. And hey, if you're already the team that he did commit to, that still has close ties to, that his family still kind of sort of has loudly supported that you go to, I don't think that hurts Michigan State's decision here. So again, we got to wait all the way till the first week of July for his actual decision, but those dates and officials were just set. So that's why we're bringing it up right now. Now, outside the world of Michigan State, it's just more of a Big Ten note, but Brent McMurphy of Action Network tweeted this out, that the Big Ten is, quote, strongly considering removing its requirement for league teams to play a Power 5 non-conference team annually starting in 2024. That is when USC and UCLA join the Big Ten, and also, well, that's when the college football playoff expands to 12 teams. Look, I get a lot of takes run on here. Lord knows that. You know that. I'm going to beat my chest, though, because I think I was pretty right here last year when we had this debate of what's the best way to schedule a football season. Is it having tough games in the non-conference, iron forging yourself for the year ahead, or is it slating up a bunch of cupcakes on your schedule, kind of like Michigan did? That was the hot debate last year. And I said, look, I didn't say this with a smile. Michigan kind of does it right. I would schedule Lansing area high school teams if it was up to me. I get as many wins as possible. Hey, look, as if there wasn't enough proof last year, what would you rather have happened last year? Get absolutely baptized at Washington last year, or hey, get a little cheap 6th win there and play, I don't know, Miami of Ohio or Okemos High School, for example. I think I would have rather had that 6th win and gone to a bowl game instead of getting butchered at Washington, but I digress. Do you know who else has really caught on to that too? How about the Big Ten with this rule consideration? Because yes, when it expands to 12 teams, I've said, you know what, hey, maybe having a tough team in the non-conference could help you. You know, it might be a good loss to have, but no, you know what, that's still dumb. There's no such thing as a good loss, especially when the margin for error is that thin in a 14 playoff, and a 12-team playoff, it's still not that big either. And there's no year that was a better exemplifier of that than last season. All right. Hey, that 12th team, that 12th ranked team in the final college football rankings, well, yeah, they were 10-2. That 13th team, 9-3. I mean, it just happens to be a perfect example that, yes, the cutoff between 12 and 13 was just 1 win. Why are you signing yourself up for any trouble that you don't need? And the Big Ten is kind of saying to every team in their conference, no, don't schedule that SEC team. Don't schedule that fun Pac-12 team. Don't fly out west for a ridiculous road game. No. We have Eastern Illinois right by us. Call them. Give them a phone call. You have Central Michigan up there. Give them a phone call. Like, just make this as easy of a schedule as possible because, look, the Big Ten play is already hard enough, and you only have a margin of error of 2 losses. I mean, Yeah, and the Big Ten, surprise, they're going to want more teams in the college football playoff as possible. I mean, for example, the ACC, they only would have had one team in the college football playoff last year. It would have been Clemson. All right. Could have been two at Florida State, who was 9-3. For example, instead of Florida in the non-conference, who they lost to, maybe if they play UAB or Jacksonville State instead, or some other team that's not, an SEC team, they would have been 10-2, and maybe they actually flip with the 12th ranked team last year. So I don't know. Yeah, it sucks from a viewing standpoint. No question. I mean, the big, exciting games are very fun, but sadly, it's a business. And when your eyes are on the finish line of a 12-team playoff, eliminate any hurdle you possibly can. And, just to bring this back to Michigan State here, in the next few years, their non-conference schedules, they actually have done a good job scoping out a pretty easy-ish, I say that reluctantly, knock on wood, easy-ish Power 5 opponent in Boston College. They play at Boston College in 2024, and then Boston College comes here in 2025, and then, you got to go to Notre Dame in 2026, but maybe you could get them off the schedule. I wouldn't hate seeing that. Just replace them for Marist. Who cares? It's just not them. I want an easy path here in September. If that makes me a coward, fine. I'm a coward, but I'm a coward that's seen more wins from my team. So be it. All right, we're going to be joined by Zach Blackerby. Actually, other way around. I more so joined Zach Blackerby, but it's still a good conversation. A lot of Payton Thorne talk. That's the gist of the whole thing. But we get to a few Michigan State tidbits as well. But before that, hey, Built Bar. Gang, it is the best tasting protein bar in the land. If you're on the golf course, if you got a day of yard work ahead of you, a day at the in-laws, or just your old-fashioned workout, wolf down one of these Built Bars, or hey, a Built Puff. Either way, wrapped in 100% real chocolate. They're soft, they're chewy, and they taste so amazing. And I swear to you, when I taste these, I'm like, right here, they always say, well, say it tastes as good as a candy bar. No, they taste better than a candy bar, especially the Churro Puff Bar. My goodness gracious, those slap. But hey, most of these Built Bars, 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, but a whopping 17 grams of protein. You're not going to feel weighed down or jittery. You're just going to feel the power. So go to Sam's Club, go to Walmart, or just go to oldfashionedbuilt.com. That's right, built.com, Sam's Club, or Walmart to stock up on your Built Bars.
And joining us now for a little Locked On crossover action, Matt Sheehan, the host of Locked On Spartans, interacting with all you Big Ten guys this week. How fun.
I know.
How fun. All right, so Payton Thorne leaves Michigan State and then very quickly is tied to Auburn, and all things happen very, very quickly.
Yep.
I guess what was your general response? And I know just from listening to Locked On Spartans, you saw this coming. But I guess when the news started coming, what was your initial reaction to all of this?
Yeah, it was a thing where it's in hindsight, we should have saw this coming maybe, or not be so shocked, because when it did happen at midnight before the transfer portal window closed, It's like, oh my God, did not see that coming. And then you actually sit down and think for a little bit. And yeah, okay, this guy is in his 3rd year as a starting quarterback. He is now thrust into the starting quarterback battle, which I'm sure, on the surface isn't the greatest thing in the world. And then, during that battle, seems like 80% of this fan base is loudly rooting against him as well. So option A, okay, great. Come to a school where they don't even know if I'm going to be the starting quarterback. They're not convinced. The fan base doesn't really seem to want me to win this thing. Or, hey, option B, Auburn's telling me how pretty I am. Auburn wants me to come down there, play some SEC ball. We get a fresh start. What would you pick? So that's kind of why it, when you really think about it, maybe shouldn't have been this big surprise, even though he was in the lead to start for Michigan State going into the offseason here. So that's the long and short of it here, Zach. Yeah.
Well, it always turns into this transfer portal era, and I guess you saw it with the pros a little bit, but I think college sports are a little more emotional than the pros. That's why we love it so much. But
yeah,
when someone leaves you via the portal, it quickly turns into, we didn't want him anyway. And it's like, well, he did start at State for 2 years, and 1 year I think was pretty solid. I think everybody's happy with what happened 2 seasons ago.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, last year I'm sure there's a lot of frustration all around it. I've watched several of the games from last season. I don't think it was all Thorne. Was Thorne perfect? No, but I think there's a lot of things going on that Coach Tucker needs to fix up there. But I mean, that certainly seems like that's what Auburn folks are hearing from Michigan State people. And I'm getting comments like, oh, I'm so glad he's gone. And it's like, I don't know how you could say losing this guy is like the best thing for your program. And I've heard you talk about some of the younger guys that there's a lot of excitement on. Like, you get to go ahead and turn that page, but you're losing a guy with 2 years of experience. Like, that's not a good thing, Matt.
Right. And so here's the way I put it is that if you lose your starting quarterback, an incumbent of 2 years, that could really decimate another program here. But, I mean, aside from all the fans that are actually very happy that Payton Thorne is leaving, because, let's not kid ourselves. There is a good faction that are just saying, sayonara, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Like,
sure.
Is it great? Not necessarily, but, like, I don't think it's as devastating as it is for every other program. Okay. And that's not just, Mr. Lockdown Spartan saying that. Like, you can see it with the reaction of the coaching staff, too, because they're not even looking for quarterbacks in the spring transfer portal window. They're looking at Noah Kim. They're looking at Kaden Hauser being like, well, we're comfortable with it being one of these two guys. So, I mean, from that point of view of how far the drop-off is, might not be as bad as it would be in a lot of other programs, luckily. But with that said, like, the floor was already pretty low to begin with here. It was not the greatest season last year. And I think just a fresh start is good for everyone. That's what I've been parading like the last few weeks here, is that this is good for all parties involved. It's good for Payton, fresh start, new program, a fan base that might be just like a smidge more patient with him than we would have this year. And then, well, for MSU's point of view, like, all right, let's turn the page, work on some future quarterbacks that have years of eligibility left, and let's just all move forward and try to be happy with our lives.
I agree with you, but it is kind of funny because, like, I love the Auburn fan base as I am part of it, but patient is not a word I would use to describe us.
Yeah, I had to use that pretty loosely there, but right.
I totally get it. All right, so we mentioned this a second ago. 2 years ago, Payton's first full year as a starter. I mean, I think every Michigan State fan was ecstatic with how things were going. 10 or 11 wins. Remind me.
11. Yeah,
11. Yeah, there we go. We need to count all of those. And then obviously last year that was not the case. What happened?
11.
I mean,
right.
I mean, Kenneth Walker leaving has been kind of tied to a big part of that, but surely it's more than just a running back going to the NFL, right?
Yeah, of course. Like, Payton Thorne wasn't to blame for having 27 different starters on defense last year. Payton Thorne is not to blame for having a kicker routinely miss kicks inside of 30 yards. I mean, Payton Thorne can only do so much. When it's a 5-7 season, it's never one position group, let alone one guy here. But like, losing Kenneth Walker, it turns out, Zach, when you lose a guy that probably should have won NFL Rookie of the Year, that actually hurts you a little bit. But there was so many other factors that went into last season. Chalk them up as excuses, or really, as we like to call them over here, reasons for just it falling apart here. And I think just a lot of defensive injuries didn't help. And also, Payton Thorne referenced this too in spring ball. He referenced it once last year that kind of flew over everyone's head. Like, he did get hurt very early on in the season, and that may have harmed his game a little bit. He was a little less active with his legs and scrambling later in the season. Is that injury
public, Matt? I've been told what it is, but I don't know if it's public or not, so I don't want to say it.
I've heheard leg injury. That's all I got for you.
Okay.
Leg injury.
I was not told. I was told something different, so that's interesting. It could be more than one thing. I don't know.
And that's the thing too. That's the fun that we get with Mel Tucker here, is that injury news up in East Lansing is more tightly held than anything that's like in the Pentagon. Like, it is top flight certified.
Sure.
That's just So it's tough to know what really is and is not going on here, but it was a tale of 2 different years. And the one thing that, you know what, I'm gonna spin this table here. How good's the run game down at Auburn here for you guys? Like, is it a solid run game for you guys?
It's expected to be. To be. The backs are good. I think there's still questions along the offensive line. The offensive line was bad a year ago. Hugh Freeze has gone on and now got 4 transfers on the offensive line. So, I mean, it looks better. But Jarquez Hunter is going to be a really special back. Damari Austin, Jeremiah Cobb's one of the best freshmen. He'll be one of the best freshman backs in college football based on recruiting rankings. So, I mean, it should be good. And that's kind of what we're pointing at, because there's a stat that's going on around, the Auburn sphere, where, like, Payton Thorne's stats when he had a 150-yard rusher in a game, it's crazy. It's crazy how much different that is. And I think that's going to happen a lot this season at Auburn.
And like to bring it back to Payton Thorne, like the drop off from Kenneth Walker to the run game we had last year, it was like going from a Maserati to your 1990 Camry that only has 3 wheels on it. Like we were atrocious in the run game last year, and that also reflected in the pass game because 2 years ago in that 11-win season, Payton Thorne was making a killing in the play action game, and of course, like it'd be ridiculous not to just point to Kenneth Walker being a massive reason for that. But if you have some semblance of a good run game, I think it's going to bring a lot of comfort to Payton Thorne because last year, I think when he turned around to hand the ball off, I think he knew that this is not Kenneth Walker at all, actually. And oh boy, I need to do a lot more. So I think he's forcing a lot more in the pass game because 2 years ago, I always lauded him for just how smart he was with the football, never threw it into trouble, was always just so cerebral. And last year we saw him stray a little bit away from that, and I don't wonder. It really just seemed to be that, well, okay, he knew that he kind of had to do way more than he could, and that's how we got in some trouble here and there last year. So if it's a good run game, that's going to bring comfort to Payton Thorne and your fan base, hopefully.
Matt, I want to ask you in just a second why Michigan State did this certain thing that didn't really make sense, especially after what you just said. I want to touch on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. I want to encourage you to join the Locked On Auburn Discord. It is free. All you have to do is click the link in the episode description down below. Matt, it seemed like Michigan State consistently ran the ball on 1st and 10 and then like 2nd and 8. I mean, every game I watched from last season, that seemed to be a consistent theme. And then, I mean, we've seen this at Auburn over the past decade where it's like, all right, it's 3rd and 8 again. Like, and everybody wants to jump on a quarterback. And all of a sudden it's like, well, we're not really helping them out here. It seemed like a similar thing. So everybody's kind of looking at Thorne's numbers because he dropped I think it was like 600 yards from 2021 to 2022 as far as passing goes. His completion percentage went up 2%.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think he was like a worse quarterback, Matt. Like, I don't think he regressed from 21 to 22. I just think like Michigan State had no business from a play calling standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, whatever it may be, as far as putting them in a situation to succeed. So why do you think they ran it on early down so much?
Can I just say, I don't know? Because that's why, you can't see it in the side of this room, but there is a dent in the drywall, and that is for me banging my head so many times. Because, look, the play call is very hit and miss. There are some really good games for offensive coordinator Jay Johnson last year. There are also even more games where it's like, we do know Kenneth Walker is not here anymore. Like, I just want to make sure we all know this because, yeah, man, when an idiot like me can just point out what you're going to do every first down, like what do you think the professional defensive coordinators are going to do? Like they know what's coming in. It was just all too predictable last year, and not predictable with the good run game because it's one thing where you can hand the ball to Kenneth Walker and he's going to get 6 yards no matter who knows if the ball's being ran. And last year where there's a lot of issues here. So yeah, it's behind the 8 ball is one way to put it. The second and 8 ball, if you want to use that pun, but yeah, it's nice. That needs to get better this year too, man.
The 2nd and 8 ball. Well done.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah,
well
thank you.
Done,
Appreciate
Matt.
that.
That was so subtle. I want to make sure people caught that. Well,
just trying to be as good as you, man. That's
you're way past that. You're way past that. All right, so I guess the big question is, and I talked to Jay Stevens, host of Locked On Buckeyes, about this yesterday because we were talking about one of the receivers that we added. Can he win? Can Payton Thorne win in the SEC?
Iron Bowl's at home for you guys, right? I mean, that helps.
Yeah.
No, yes, I think so because, and here is where I net out with Payton Thorne, and there are so many people that are going to take what I hear and think that I'm insulting him, but if he could just be that game manager, because that GM word is almost offensive to a lot of people, but no, really, that is a compliment sometimes. Sometimes all you have to be is a game manager. Kind of sort of was one 2 years ago, and it seemed to work out great. But yeah, if he could just go back to the old Payton where, he isn't getting skittish out of the pocket way too quickly, and I think a fresh face of new offensive linemen could possibly help that. I think we had some trust issues last year between Payton and the offensive line. And if he can just go back to the cerebral, all right, it's 2nd and 8. I'm not going to throw the ball into a double team right now. We're going to live to see another day here. I think he can. Now, what is the threshold for winning down there, though? Are we talking 8-4? Are we talking 11-1? Like what? It's how much it.
I think this is a rebuild situation, right? I mean, you just hired a new head coach. Okay. Brian Harsin left this roster in shambles. Auburn's pretty much flipped the entire offense, right? With transfers or kind of guys that are growing up a little bit. So yeah, I think 8-4. I think most Auburn fans would be happy with an 8-4 season right now.
I can see that. I really can, because also, like, I do think Payton Thorne is a pretty headstrong kid. Now, whether this was all just window dressing, but like, he is the son of a coach. He knocked down every single cliche. And also, like, in every press conference in the midst of a terrible season last year, took blame for everything, never really pawned anything off on anyone else. So I think he is a headstrong person, which, correct me if I'm wrong here, might be a little important if you're a quarterback of an SEC team. So, I don't know. I think it is there. He just needs a good supporting cast. And by, the remodel of the offense, the roster for you guys, it seems like the bones are in place there for old Payton.
Yeah. How much of his success was receivers? I mean, you guys had a guy that was drafted high recently, then obviously Keon Coleman, which I imagine that was a tough weekend for you. And I apologize.
Not the best. Oh, no, it's okay. It's just why I haven't slept in 2 weeks. It's fine.
You still look great. You still look great.
Thanks. Yeah, no, totally. There's hours of makeup before this.
But I mean, a lot of his Thorne's throws to Coleman specifically, I watched more of last year than 2021.
Sure.
But it seemed like more of his throws, like Coleman still like wasn't getting separation. Like it was still a ball placement thing. And then, he wanted the high pointing the football and all of that. But to me, I mean, he's coming into a situation where, like, I think Auburn's receivers need some help.
Okay.
Right. And the fact of, like, he was able to throw to guys, even his best guy, when he wasn't able to create separation is a good thing.
And that was going to be the interesting litmus test for this year for Michigan State, because it wasn't just Keon Coleman. It was also Jaden Reed, who just got picked in the second round by the Packers. And this will be Michigan State's fans' 9,000th time hearing this. But Payton Thorne and Jaden Reed, they went to high school together. So they had some pretty good built-in chemistry beforehand, which, just the talent of both players by itself, pretty solid. But when they had that chemistry, like, there were a lot of times last year where it's like, all right, 3rd and 9, F it, here comes a grenade. Jaden's going to be down there somewhere. And then, like, that offense actually worked a good deal. It worked 2 years ago as well when there were some big throws that had to be made. So that was going to be the interesting part, should he have still been at Michigan State, is, all right, how is he going to do without old pal Jaden Reed? So that is going to be, now a litmus test that is going to play out in Auburn is like, all right, how is he going to do with a new room of receivers? Like, was it really just Jaden Reed that was carrying a lot of the magic, or was that kind of overblown from our point of view? So stay tuned to find out how important receivers are going to be here for him.
Yeah, because, like, I don't think they have a 2nd round draft pick that will be catching passes this year.
And that's helpful, it turns out. Yeah.
2nd round draft picks are good. I know we all overhype, if you're not a 1st round pick, you're a bum, but that's not how it works. That's
second place too. Yeah.
Those guys make a lot of money as well.
Yeah.
All right. I want to circle back to something you said about how he kind of got a little skittish in the pocket at times.
Yeah.
When watching him, especially last year, I was impressed. I mean, he still did it some, but usually when he left the pocket, like, there was a reason to. I was actually impressed with his pocket presence. Was that not a narrative up there?
It depends who you ask, because that is a highly contested debate. It's like, oh, he's got live legs, they're good. It's like, well, that is such a razor thin line between being smart and good with your legs, but also the other end of that is you're a little too skittish, you're throwing off balance, and these are why the throws are inaccurate. So it is a razor thin margin between the two.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm asking you then. If it depends on who I'm asking, I'm going to ask you.
I think he bailed a little early here, more times than not. And I got to say, some of that was justified, because there were some offensive line issues here, whether it be injury, whether it just be performance. And I think that there were some trust issues here, especially like late into last year, where you watch these games, it's like, oh, why'd you escape? You had a clean pocket. Oh, this is why, because probably the 8 prior games, that would not have been a clean pocket. So, like, I think we're a little bit jumpy here, and I think that's an issue as well. But that's not to say that, like, sometimes his legs are a strength. We saw it. I hate to keep going back. Actually, no, I love going back, because this was the happy times. 2 years ago, I think he's a lot more smart. He got a lot more done with his legs in the scramble game. But again, and that
was the O-line better 2 years ago in your mind?
Not really. No, I don't think there's much improvement. I'll tell you what makes an O-line look really good is a second round running back by the name of Kenneth Walker, who wins the Doak Walker Award. He makes every offensive line look good. But no, even just the pass protection from 2 years ago to last year, it didn't change all too much. And I think that there was just trust issues there, if I could use that again.
Sure. Got it. And so, all right. So you think 8 wins is possible for Payton Thorne this season? Okay.
Yeah, and I just took a peek at the schedule a few days ago. I wish I had it memorized at the top of my head, but like it's nice. You
The
get those
non-conference
Sanford
is
games in there
super
too.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you go to Cal. That's the toughest one, and I just don't have a whole lot of respect for where that program is right now. I mean, it's on the road. It's weird.
Right.
It's 2 hours different time zone. That could impact it, but you get Vanderbilt on the road, so like that you should be at 5. That's 5 right there. You get the 2 Mississippi schools, Mississippi State and Ole Miss at home. If you split those, like you're almost there, Matt.
Yeah, I know. And like you do have like Georgia this year. Am I making that up? You do have
Georgia and Bama at home. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, at home though. So like
doesn't matter.
Okay. I don't know if I'm gonna go as far as saying you'll win.
Yeah, you don't have to do this. Yeah, you can say maybe the Iron Bowl, but like
against one of those teams, but yeah. That's as far as I was going to go. Like you probably cover against one of those 2 teams. So yeah,
sure. Yeah, we'll see what our friends at FanDuel have the line at. But yeah, I mean, I think 7-5 is at my expectation right now. But I think if you can kind of do something, you can totally do that. You can totally do that. But like we don't know what A&M is. You know, you go to College Station.
I know.
Like,
right.
That's a tricky one. You know, and
it is.
You know, their offensive coordinator hire was certainly interesting, and so we'll see what that looks like. You go to Fayetteville. Auburn usually takes care of business in Fayetteville, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's a new era of Auburn football, but I don't know. I think 8-4 is certainly possible if things click. But yeah, I'm kind of expecting 7-5 right now.
If I'm pinned against the wall and forced to make a prediction, give me 7-5. Give me 7. But there's a lot of question marks there. Like, what is going on in College Station? Like, I don't know. The only thing you can count on is that there's going to be 2 million fans there rooting against you, and that's just going to be a tough environment to begin with. So
that's true.
Yeah, man.
Matt Sheehan, if folks want to check out anything Michigan State Spartans related, where can they find you?
Sheehan_sports, Locked on Spartans. And we need to get something from Auburn eventually here, because I'll tell you what, like 2013, we beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game to give you the berth to the national title game. And that we've gotten in return is you guys just pillaging our village for our quarterback and also giving us a kicker that couldn't make a 26-yarder to go to a bowl game. Like we need a bone from Auburn here eventually. So if you could put in a good word to the people, I haven't. So yeah, if you could, no, but I do like Auburn fans a lot. I really do. I'm not just pandering. I'm not blowing sunshine up your butt for no good reason.
You can pander. I'm cool with pandering. There's nothing wrong with pandering. That's fine.
I also need to pander because we need something out of Auburn. So if Hugh Freeze, I know you're listening right now. Like if you could just give us someone, like just anyone, like it'd be just great if you could.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do, my friend.
Appreciate you.
Be sure to check out Locked on Spartans and come back tomorrow